Welcome to the Sunday Debrief podcast, where we have a conversation about the weekend message and talk a little bit about how it challenges how we think and changes how we live. Just good conversations all the time, and always way too much to talk about, which is why I'm glad to have some great friends here. We've got some guests today. The Carreras. Carreras, introduce yourselves.
Hello, Holly here.
Hi, I'm EJ.
EJ, Holly, how long have you been around Mission? Give us a quick story, like how you got here.
We've been at Mission for about 9 years.
That's actually longer than I've been here, so yeah. Well done.
Good stuff. So, we were both going to a different church, and just wasn't quite what we were looking for at the time. And we started kind of searching for a home, and a lot of people were saying, you should check out this Mission place. So we gave it a try. First person we met was Mike.
Nice.
He didn't tell us that, he was the lead pastor or anything.
He's sneaky like that. That's true.
So
that was good.
And we were at the movie theater, so it was a lot smaller. So he kind of gave us a tour, introduced us to some people, and got us feeling comfortable. And when we sat down, he was up preaching, and we were like, "Oh, really?
They let
That's
anybody
Mike
up there."
Yeah. So
awesome. I love it. And also joining today, the lovely, the incomparable, the beautiful. She's my wife, so I'm allowed to say all this. But
that's enough.
Lauren,
I feel awkward. Hey, it's Lauren.
Today. Introduce yourself.
It's fun to be sitting here with the Carreras, who have been at Mission longer than us.
It's impressive.
I got to serve with their kids in kids ministry, and like, your baby girl was 4 months old when you started coming, and I just saw a picture of her, and she's 9 years old. Holy cow! Yep. Yeah. But you guys have a lot of life, and really a lot of marriage lessons, and you've put God in the middle as much as you can throughout the last years of your marriage. How long have you guys been married?
This October will be 12 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Very nice.
But not only in your marriage, you guys are also navigating work, family balance, both of you. And I know you have coworkers. Do you actually work with coworkers? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, what your days look like right now?
Oh boy. Let me chop this down to a few seconds. We are both special education teachers at the high school level. We both teach 9th through 12th grade, all different subjects, students with learning disabilities, in the mild to moderate range. And so distance learning with all of these kiddos is just, it's basically our first year all over again, where you have to learn all new ways to get through this. But I would say that, both of us being in the same field, we know exactly what each other is going through all day, every day. So it's been a support system for us to bounce off ideas from each other, to understand some of the stressors that take place with families and students, and then just how we can emotionally support all of them from home, which is really hard, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. We've got a whole year to figure it out, and now you can stop figuring it out because the year's almost over.
Because now they want us to do
and also they're changing everything again.
Year ever.
Yeah.
But you guys have, sounds like navigated it beautifully, and it's not something that's easy to do. And but luckily it gives us a lot to talk about in this today, which is really good. A lot of fodder for conversation. So talking about you first. Last week we talked about getting this foundation under us, and then this kind of primary principle that we work on with that foundation is mutual submission. You first. And we could talk forever about all the ways this plays out in every relationship and all the different places. I love to start with just like your marriage in 12 years of marriage now. That's a lot of life. You guys have done a lot of life, raise kids halfway to completion, right? I guess that's maybe one way to look at it.
So far.
That's weird to say, but so you've done all that. How has this you first mentality played out in your lives? Was it new to you when getting married? Did you have pictures of this in the past? has it been extra challenging? Like, tell us your experience with this you first marriage mindset thing.
Go first, babe.
Sure.
Oh, look at that. You first.
You planned that.
You first.
See?
Hashtag
Great example.
you first.
Yeah, it was pretty easy for us, I would say. We did have really good examples. I'll speak for myself and my family. My mom was really a great example of you first. She was, she would iron my dad's clothes at night. My dad was also, like I am, finishing school.
Mhm.
So he would work and then go to school. So she would, make sure he had dinner on the nights when he was gone. She would record the Laker games for him, make sure he could see his Lakers. And at that time, I think they were pretty sorry. So he would
So it's
come
true
home
love
and
at that point.
not be happy about what he saw. But I did have some great examples there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I was very blessed. My parents are still married. They're still super flirty and very much in love, and they both have their parts that they do at home. And I grew up watching that. So I knew that it was a partnership. I would say on our first year of marriage, there was of course, we argued and we got in tiffs about dumb little things. I remember this is one of my favorite examples to give. He would put all of his clothes in the laundry, all different colors and jeans. And, he'd put it all in there together. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's what do you mean what I'm doing? I'm like, you have to have, your color categories, because that's how my mom did it. You had the jeans pile, the whites, the colors, you had towels, and he's looking at me I've been doing my laundry since I was 10. I'm okay. I can do this. And I really thought my way was better.
Yeah.
And so guess what? Right now we throw all the colors in the laundry and I could care less. But I remember thinking we are so different. How are we going to just do our daily things together? And so it's just funny, how we pay bills and how we went about the daily life things. So learning each other's things in the beginning, it's not easy. But you learn and you grow together, and, but the you first thing, we knew to put each other's needs first, I think, from the beginning. And, my man is a very solid man. He's very steadfast and very this is my job. This is what I need to do. I would say it's taken me a lot longer to have that same mentality. But I've learned to grow into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like too, the you first mindset in your marriage isn't this well, I'll do all the things so that you can have it easy. It's I'll do the right things and you'll do the right things so that we both can thrive. And
Exactly.
so you're trying to get him to thrive, maybe by doing the things that he's best at, and breaking it down, not because that's what men do and women do, or this is what husbands and wives do, or this is what it's this is what I need to do now to help you thrive, and vice versa. And you've always been able to trust that the other's doing that too.
Yes.
Which is huge.
I imagine that there are people listening right now who are kind of well, screw you guys. I'm glad your parents are still married, with that attitude. But I think that that the reality is that they fought for that marriage, and you guys have fought for this you first attitude too. Can you speak a little bit to the people who've never had those examples and what you would tell them about this whole idea of you first?
Yeah. I think I would just say it's a process, just because we had great examples, doesn't mean we still weren't selfish. It doesn't mean we still weren't seeking our own needs and seeking to justify why our needs needed to be met, I think it just takes time. And the more you talk to each other and you really just decide, is this selfishness? Is what I really want for myself, the best thing. You know, once you're able to have those conversations, then I think you'll see a change in some of the behavior, some of the lack of being able to put your partner first, you know.
I think just to be super like raw, the concept of the you first comes easy to us. The action is definitely not always easy. And so even though we have had 12 years together, I would say, you know, our kids are only a year and a half apart. Right now they're almost 9 and 10. And so I would say when they were 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4, we felt like roommates. We felt like we were existing in the same house. It was so busy. We did so many fun things with our kids, but we kind of did lose a big sense of each other during that time. So I would say when, you know, right now, 12 years in and having gotten over some of those really big hurdles and learning how to re-put each other first is a huge reason why we are where we are at now. Because it was not easy and we went through some really hard times, and we've always respected one another to keep it between us. So that's something that, like, you know, we learned young is just like work it out. And how we did that and when we did that, I mean, there were some dark, really difficult times where we were on our hands and knees and crying and frustrated and in pain. And so I don't want to paint any picture like any of this was easy. It's just that we had such good examples of fighting for marriage and how you don't give up, and how if two people want it, you can get to a really good place. So now I think we're truly in the best place we've ever been.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, you know, we put God first, you know, I mean, I think that's number probably the most important thing. We really did, even in those trying times, we made an effort to put God first and to, you know, wake up at, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning if we had to meet with each other, pray, you know, and then begin our day. Because, you know, like she was saying, I mean, when you have little kids, it is difficult to put anyone else first but them, because their needs seem to trump everything else. So,
and they're not usually reciprocating very much.
Not at all, surprisingly, right?
Not serving me, child.
Selfish little.
And so it's Sunday and we're recording this. I listened to the message this morning and it was cringing the whole time, which is, I don't know if you guys know, it's the Holy Spirit. You know, this week, the needs of our littles 2 and 5. And a pending adoption is just, you know, it makes me, it feels so easy to excuse me looking at me. And it feels really easy to make myself the martyr of this situation. We can both very easily be the martyr of the situation.
We're really good at I'm really good martyrs. At it. She would say that she is also. I won't say it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're really good at it.
So I like your point that you have to trust God, because I think when you put aside your needs, it does leave you asking the question, well, who's going to meet my needs? Do you guys relate to that? And how, like, can you say more about how you've learned to trust God in that? And
Sure.
and you're even like hearing your life right now, where I know you're giving so much. You're giving physically, you're giving emotional regulation to your students, and you're giving, I mean, all day, everything you have, and then you come home and you've both been doing this all day, and you have kids and you have each other. How do you fight that fight for?
It's tough. You know, truly it is, it's not easy. You know, especially you know, like you said, with our jobs, they're very emotionally demanding. we have a lot of kids that, come from really rough backgrounds, really tough home lives. And we have to be that counselor, that, that father figure, mother figure, friend, for a lot of these kids. And emotionally, it can take its toll. And when you get home, there are times when, at least when I get home, I'm kind of like, you know what I want to do? Absolutely nothing. I want to talk to?
Favorite activity.
No one. All right. So
guess who I want to talk to?
Yes.
You.
Yes. And that, that doesn't work when you have a wife who needs to talk and process her day, and you have kids that are excited to see you because they haven't seen you all day, and they need to just tell you about every single detail.
Every one of them.
That
5 times
that
till you
went on.
respond.
Yeah, exactly. So, it can be difficult. But we really have learned, like, hey, if you need that time, like, I got you,
Do you remember when we were dating, I would call you every day after work and just vent. And then it got to a point where he's like, you have an hour.
Yeah.
And that was really generous. I'm like, okay, I got 1 hour to get it all out. And then it was like, now it's like, I don't need an hour, but like, I do like to process things, but he gives me that time. I would say that, we always talk and touch base. We're with our kids, we're present, but we've learned this awareness of how our day is impacting our home life. In our home, it was always really important to us after those couple hard years of having little ones. It was important that our home became our relaxing, safe, happy place. And that's important to us. That's not just an easy thing to do. It's not just natural for everyone to be super happy all the time, but creating a space where we are aware of each other's feelings. It's definitely been a learned process, and we still are learning, and we still have our days where, we struggle. But I think that that's that awareness and the yearning to have that be a happy, safe haven for us is what helps us to recognize what the other person's going through, or our kids, and try to do what's best for them in that moment, kind of all together. And so that you are having your needs met, but you're serving them, and it's a process.
Yeah.
But I think that awareness of how can I help you today, even though I'm really tired and stressed out. And then we know when each other just needs to go in the room and close the door. Like, you need to go just take a break and chill. Go ahead.
Crucial.
Interesting too, even that the whole idea behind this, both people putting the other first, even though our main desire is to get our own needs met, it really is the only possible antidote to our actual needs. Because if I fight for my needs and I win and I get them, or I withdraw and get what I need, or fight and get what I need, or flee, like, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't actually work, because all that I really want is to feel significant and noticed and important. And if somebody else, especially the person that I care about most, says, I see you, I hear you, or I say it out loud and they just respond, even if it's not, it doesn't have to be mind reading or super aware or whatever it is. But if it's like, no, I want you to have that, then it feels like, oh, I got what I need now because you gave it to me. It's just totally different. Like, that's really important to be able to do it for the other person, as opposed to just go like, I'm going to be really loud about what I need, or just take it because I need it. That doesn't actually feel good anyway. And so it really, doing it for each other changes everything. I'm just feel like I'm speaking to myself and then going, yeah, well, you should do that, because it's really challenging, like to sit and think about it enough or be aware enough. I'm not the most aware or observant person. Let's just put that out there right now. Right?
So
looking at you. Yeah, take it away.
Well, I like that you guys talked about like how you want your home to be as part of that.
Yes,
because
that too.
that Mike talked about having a vision.
Yeah.
So that you guys you can submit to one another, the S word, right? When you have a vision that's worth following. So you're both kind of putting aside your own needs for this greater thing of like, we want our home to be this place that is safe for these 4 people. And that's what God wants from our family. He wants to keep us safe, and he wants to give us a home and a place to be with each other. So I love that there's vision, and then there's you being aware of each other's needs, which means you being aware of your own needs.
Right.
I think there's a piece of that just takes some time or some training to understand what is it that I'm actually fighting for. And I think one thing that we often fight for is to feel significant.
Right.
And so when you fight for yourself, is that something you guys can relate to, fighting for feeling significant?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just marriage wise, I struggle, after you have kids, your body changes. Struggle with some of my own like personal insecurities of just how I feel about myself. So, I'm always trying to do something, for myself, but like my husband, complimenting me and giving me that flirtatious attention at home. Like he knows that makes me feel good about myself, which in turn makes me feel good about myself. So it's like, and then I'm not so hard on myself, which makes me a little bit less frustrated or a little bit lighter on my feet at home, where I'm just naturally a little bit happier because I'm like, oh, I feel this way, and that feeds off to my kids and back to him. So I think that like we definitely have, these selfish desires of wanting to feel significant. But I think that through some of our trials and tribulations, we've learned, like, I think this last year, he started like, he's had such a heavy load this year teaching, in his master's and credential, the last 2 classes right now. This has been a long journey, and he's almost there. But like, he started sighing this year, like so specific. But I'm like, you never did that before. So I'm like, and then like also like our jobs, we naturally do this. We like analyze everything. We look at behavior and like, why is someone acting this way? Totally. Why are they doing this? Where's the core? Like we always are like, that's what we do professionally. So then we do that with each other, and we're like, okay, he's walking around sighing now, which means like, I feel like he's very stressed out. So there was one day, like a couple of months ago, I'm like, he's like, I need to do this. And I'm like, no, you're going to close that laptop and you're going to go take a walk, or you're going to go in the backyard and sit in a chair and just breathe for a little while. And he would, for like good 2 minutes. I fought you on it. He fought me hard. And I went over and I'm like, no, close this and you go right now. And he was just like, later he was very thankful. And then there's so many more times I would say he's done that for me, where he's like, just go lay down, turn on your show. Like, I got this. Because it does make it more pleasant for the other person when their person is in a better mood. So if you both are doing that, and I'm telling you, this is a learned thing and we're going to always be learning, but it really does produce fruit. It really, really does.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's just when you can tell that your partner is struggling, it's like, everything in me, like when I see her just having a rough day, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out something that's going to help her out. So if it's taking the kids for a little while, just so she can have a quiet house, I'm like, look, I'm going to take the kids. We're going to go to the park and play for a little while. Or, if it's making dinner or doing the dishes, whatever, just something so that I can get her, I guess, back to her, to her normal self, and it's difficult. It's difficult when you see your wife just struggling. I mean, she mentioned that I was sighing. I'm like, for real, like this first year of teaching, I had my first like panic attack, like where I was like,
that is so, if you know EJ, like that is so not him.
Yeah.
So I'm like watching this all happen for the first time, and I'm like, wait a minute, no. Like, I got you. We gotta get through this.
Yeah. I was like, what? I was like, what's going on? Like, I can't seem to shake this feeling, and it was just like anxiety for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing about, like, for people out there listening that like maybe don't have a partner yet or right now in a current relationship, that this feels harder, you know, as far as like serving that person. When I think it goes back to probably the most important part of today's sermon, or this message from Mike, about doing it in reverence for Christ, because it's really easy to be like, you made me mad and you're not treating me right and you're this and you're that. So I'm not going to do anything for you right now. Screw you. I'm not doing it. Like, you can go do that yourself. And I know, you know, I've been in past relationships like that where I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, you're not treating me right. And so kind of going back to that biblical standpoint, which is really, really hard because we're flesh, and but remembering that we're doing this not just for their needs to be met or mine to be met, but for God. It's this deep respect for what he's asked us to do. And I think that if you can keep that as like a center focus, even when you really don't want to serve that person, like I feel like he's going to bless you for doing that. And he's going to guide you and help you through that because you are following his word.
Right.
So I feel like it can go, I mean, like our district where we work right now is kind of, everything's crazy. There's so much going on in the school systems. And it's so easy to be like, oh, this district's doing this, or that superintendent, or that teacher, or this person. It's really easy to do that. But when I just keep telling myself, like, I'm working for Jesus, like, this is my job. These are the skills he gave me. This is the money, the paycheck that he's provided to my family to pay our bills. Like, if I just keep doing that, and I do say it out loud a lot because it helps me, like, you know, vocalize it and like remember it. Like, that really helps me be able to do my job in spite of all the mess that's going on. You know what I mean? So kind of this, like, let me give myself my own reality check of why I'm really doing what I'm doing.
Well, yeah. Well, the reality is if I wait for everybody else to be worthy of me laying down my life for them, or even if I wait for my wife to be worthy of it, and especially if she's waiting for me to be worthy of it, nobody's gonna be friends, and we'll all kill each other, and everybody will die. Like, okay, little dark,
just a little bit.
But you know, the reality is, like, nobody's worthy of it. I'm not at all. And so the only way around that is to actually do what Jesus did, which was die for his enemies who were the most not worthy of it. And that's what changes hearts. It's God's kindness that leads us to repentance. And so even like if we're in this, what are their names? The love and respect people. Some people wrote a book and it's good. Eggerich, the Eggeriches. Anyway, love and respect. They talk about the crazy cycle. Like, when we're on the crazy cycle, it's, well, I'm not getting what I need and I'm not getting what I need. So we're going to keep fighting for it. The only way to break the crazy cycle is for somebody, one of the people, especially when it's both, but one person in the couple to say, I'm going to get off and I'm going to serve you how you need to be served. And then that is what starts the love and respect cycle.
Yeah, you're not waiting to be served to serve.
That is so much harder.
It is.
Like, but you don't deserve it. Like, well, hey, I don't either.
Yeah.
And so it's really that humility is really challenging, but it does start there. And the out of reverence for Christ part is
well, it's a
huge.
choice.
Yeah.
You're making a choice. I'm going to do this for Jesus because I don't feel like you deserve this.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, we do a lot in our job that no one ever knows. You know, I just had to write a letter on my spring break on vacation for a student that was, you know, in court. And like, I knew all the details of why she got to that point. So, you know, she told the lawyer, like, there's 2 people in my life that might have my back, and one of them's my teacher. And it's like, you know, those things that are those, like, I'm just going to serve it because I'm going to serve this because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Even though I really don't want to do that on my last night of my Big Bear vacation with my best friends, you know, but like right now she's in a good place because of those actions that some of us took to fight for her. So I think you just have that awareness of like the bigger picture. And sometimes there's no bigger picture. You're just like, okay, God, you told me that I need to do this. So against all of my
sometimes it's
everything,
just
I just need to do
We'll see what
this
happens,
because
I think the bigger picture in those moments, and when I'm realizing that I'm in a darker place and unwilling to lay my life down for people, is when I've lost sight of the fact that Jesus just does this for me all the time.
I know.
He just like all that he did for me, but then also that he doesn't leave me alone in this. And there are, when I ask him, oh my gosh, there are amazing ways that he actually reaches out to me and meets my needs. So I would challenge everyone to bring your needs boldly to God as you lay them down for the people in your life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that for sure.
Like actually ask for help instead of just going, well, I know what I need. I'll just go get it. It's much more vulnerable to ask for help, especially when it's a person, but even with God. And actually, because like he could turn me down and he probably won't. But in my head, a lot of times I don't ask for help from God because I'm like, well, I'll just handle it.
Oh yeah.
That's a terrible plan.
I'll go a long time on my own trying to do. And then sometimes my husband will be like, did you pray about that? I'm like, oh, I don't want to pray about that right now. I have too many things to do.
Don't do that to me.
And then I'm like, okay, like I need a
help.
reset because he tells us we don't have to do this all by ourselves, but we so often do. So I think like, you know, we've been able to encourage each other. And, you know, sometimes, like you said, it is one of us that has to take that like forward step of like, tomorrow morning, we're going to get up a little bit earlier. We're going to do this together. And then when we get in that good routine, we're like, why haven't we been doing this? But it is hard. It's just like, you know, trying to eat healthy right now. That's hard. Like every day I'm like, okay, today's going to be the day. And then I fail. And then tomorrow. And then, so, you know, but just supporting each other through it and wanting that bigger picture, you know, we want those things for each other.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap this up, but what's like one thing, if you think real practically, there's one thing in this next week even that if you did it, it would significantly change you to a you first mindset in any relationship, honestly. Like what's a thing that maybe you've been holding on to, like, maybe I can't, you know, like what's one of those things where like, I gotta bite the bullet or be obedient and out of reverence for Christ, lay it down, surrender and put somebody else first in any relationship.
I have something we don't do this regularly, but we're trying to. But it's very practical and very straight to the point, is we go up to each other, what can I do for you today? And sometimes, like my mother-in-law, she's so funny. Sometimes she's like, Holly, do you want me to make you a plate? I'm like, yeah. She's like, nope, come get it yourself. and it's just amazing. Like so funny because she's like, how can I serve you? Just kidding. She always does. She makes the best food ever. Yeah, but for us, and sometimes it's like cheesy and dorky. We're like, what can I do for you today? And then sometimes it's like, what can I do for you today? Against everything that I'm feeling right now. But like it takes us both like kind of like, you know, it's just like, can you tidy up the living room? It's just like, because I like that space to be really clean and he knows that. And so when he's like, what can I do? And that's a really easy thing to ask your person. Or, it could be your friends.
Gosh,
it could be your child.
Coworker.
Totally.
Or somebody that works
Coworkers.
for
What
you,
can I do
anything,
for you today to make your life a little bit easier? And it's just huge. It goes so far. And then I'll just be honest, like giving, I mean, it's what we do all day long with our jobs, but it is so much more rewarding than getting, because you're like, wow, like that was really easy for me to do that for someone, but it made their whole day better. And so like, if you can just think that way, then get yourself to that point to ask that question. What can I do for you today? It's just huge. And you can do that with your kids. Last night I was working on, my talk for Spark, and my son started doing the dishes like at 9:30 at night. That doesn't happen very often.
Doesn't happen.
I was just like looking at, I go, what are you doing? I'm like, you just did your math homework on a Saturday and then you're doing the dishes. And he's like, well, I just thought it would help. And then he kind of winked at me and he's like, allowance? So I'm like, yeah, we could talk about allowance. But like, it totally, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I woke up, told my husband, and then now I'm talking about here, like, look at the flow from that one little kind gesture.
Totally.
It really can go on so much farther, so for me, practically just like asking the person that you care about or people that you see struggling, like, what can I do for you?
Yeah. I would say just asking for help when you need it, for sure. I think, like she was saying, it's difficult for us to ask for help when we need it, So, one of the things I know she used to do when we were first married was,
what you gonna say?
Was, she would passively aggressively, say kind of what she wanted. Oh man, I always have to do the dishes. And I would just be sitting there.
Dishes in the sink. Weird.
Interesting. Oh, I just noticed those. I wonder
totally
if
did those last
they're
night.
noticeable.
Wow. And so I, of course, am like, yep, and I'm not going to do them now because
I was.
you did that. I
But
was
he
going to
wouldn't
do
tell
them.
me that. I'm like,
And so, eventually we just had a talk and I was just like, instead of doing that, why don't you just ask me and just say, hey, can you do the dishes? Or, hey, can you, pick up? Because I think that's the most important thing, is just being able to ask and tell people what you need. But it takes something. I don't know why we struggle with that so much, but it does take like a humbling to be able to say, like, hey, I need help with this.
Yeah.
Like, can you help me?
It makes you vulnerable, honestly. I mean, if you think about just survival mode, like I can't show my weak spot to somebody because, like, what if they hurt me? And the reality is, well, they might. So it's a little scary, but also when you protect yourself, or just, this is not about yourself. When I protect myself from, people rejecting or hurting me, I also never get all of the good things, like getting helped and receiving love. You can't receive love if you put up a wall, to not get hurt by anybody. So you shut the whole thing out. You can't just let one thing through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good. Good. I got one too, but what are you doing this week?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to start. I mean, seriously, I'm going to start asking for help. When you asked that question, I was like, I don't know. When EJ said that, I'm like, well, there you go. That's what I got to
tell you,
do.
like, every time I ask him for help, I mean, he's always helpful. But when I'm like, I really need this, and I know he's busy with school, like, he never says no because he's told me to ask him for help when I need it. So it's like such a blessing to be like, hey babe, can you do this for me, before we leave? And then it's the same. He'll be like, can you, go fill up the car with gas before this? Or, hey, when you're out, can you pick up some milk? Like things that make our lives flow better and are easier. So it takes work, but I think, if you're offering, what can I do for you? And then you're not too prideful to say, I need help right now.
Right.
Those two things can really change your relationships a lot for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
awesome. Well, apparently I'm going to do that too this week. No, but for real, actually, that is huge for me because mine is that I need to know what I actually need. I often just try and get things that I think I need. Like I need to catch up on some work right now. Like, well, that's probably almost never actually true. Maybe I'll feel less anxious if I work a little more. Did you hear yourself just now? That's not logical. Like, no, I'd feel less anxious if I actually did something to calm my anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, working doesn't do that. So for me, I think it's pausing, clearing my head, because if I'm always trying to figure out what I might need or how to get ahead or how to catch up, I'm not ever getting ahead, how to catch up, then my mind is full of that and I don't have a clear mind, and I come home and I miss. I mean, I in general miss the most obvious things, but especially when I'm not clear-headed like that, and I'm just thinking about all these things that are going on, and like I miss the most obvious chances to show up, and that's like just huge missed opportunity. It's really unfortunate. So I think clearing my head is a big one for me, for sure. Well, this was lovely. I'm sure we could talk a lot longer. Thank you guys so much for joining. And honestly, this too is a chance, I think, not only for us to have a conversation, but to, as much as we can, model what it looks and feels like to have conversations like this. Honestly, a message is never done and it's never good enough until it's been talked about. And I've just totally feel that way. Maybe that's because I'm an external processor, but at the same time, messages are meant to be talked about because they're meant to be lived out. And we got to live this stuff out together, and we need each other's input. And so hopefully this can be a model for, if you're listening, maybe it's a conversation you can go have with somebody in your life. We actually put a link every week to the Sunday Conversation Guide every single week around Mission. We've got questions that you can walk through with anybody in your life to have a really easy or really complex and thorough conversation about what we learned on Sunday. Because again, we want to not just hear it, we want to understand it, we want to apply it to our lives, and then actually experience being obedient to it, because that's where the good stuff starts to happen. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.